I want us to discuss this whole thing of mandatory vaccines. It all comes down to there are two key issues here: whether the government has the right to mandate, in other words, to coerce people to take a vaccine. Incentives are fine, lotteries, prizes, whatever. But coercing people by telling you there are now two classes of Australian citizens, those who are exempt from restrictions and those who aren't, I have a real problem with. But it also goes to this issue, James, of compensation. Here we have a bit of footage of Senator Jackie Lambie, arguing with Brendan Murphy, one of the chief medical officers, about this idea of compensation. We now learn from Senator Erica Betts that apparently the government is now talking possibly about compensating people if the vaccine that the government forces you to have does something nasty to you. They're going to now maybe compensate you. This seems to be all back to front. I was going to use another expression. Just watch Senator Lambie and Brendan Murphy here.
Do you think that the lack of compensation system has to do with why people are so hesitant to go out and get a jab? Because trust me, Mr Murphy, as a senator, I'm saying you're not compensated. I'm making that very clear to people out there. I'm not going to sit there and lie to them. So if something goes wrong, I'm telling them how hard it is, because that is my job as a senator. So how do you think the government's going to go by us telling the truth out there to the people that, you know what, if something goes wrong, you're stuffed? Because your government isn't going to look after you and you're not getting compensation.
I would hope you wouldn't say to the public that if something goes wrong, you're stuffed, Senator. That would not be good.
Well, that's the truth, Mr Murphy. It takes years to get through a court system. If you do get sick from this stuff, you will get sick. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's not happening or that won't happen, because I'm not telling the truth, Mr Murphy.
Thanks.
Okay, Senator Lambie, if we let Professor Murphy respond.
So, look, I don't think I can add anything more to it, Senator. That's been a decision of government.
So, come on, this is just absurd. Government, tell us your thoughts on it, James.
Well, look, I think that we have to go back to what, Jeanette Young and Dan Andrews, I hate to say it, were saying before, that, we shouldn't take our vaccine advice necessarily from politicians, but from doctors. And so on that, you'd want to back Brendan Murphy, I think, over Jackie Lambie, I'm afraid. The thing with this compensation scheme is, though, that my understanding of it is that they're indemnifying doctors, so doctors are less hesitant about being on the hook if something does go wrong. These are exceedingly rare times that things do go wrong, and that there will be a simple compensation scheme that the government will fund, which I think should encourage people, once again, that if something does, in the incredibly rare case that something does go wrong, that they would be okay, that they would be looked after. As far as mandatory vaccines are concerned, well, we're a long way from that. This seems to be, at this point, and as it should remain, entirely voluntary. But I do think that there's actually a difference between... Can I just pick
you up on that, James?
Yeah.
Can I just pick you up on there, James and Rita? And I just want to play you two clips from Nick Coatsworth, who's the former Deputy Medical Chief Officer. This is something he said last week, which agrees with you, James. Have a listen.
Would, Nick, it be compulsory for health workers in this country to be vaccinated?
Well, Carl, I've always been an advocate of voluntary vaccination, and I remain so. I think it would be very legitimate for any administrator, if there was an outbreak in their facility. We have alternative steps like removing frontline workers and putting them on alternative duties. That's something that is all available to us.
Now, Rita, that sounds perfectly logical and sensible to me and backs up what James is saying. But here's what the same Nick Coatsworth said 10 months ago when he was the Deputy Chief Medical Officer. Have a listen.
Australia's Deputy Chief Health Officer, Dr Nick Coatsworth, held a press conference yesterday, and he was saying that restrictions could be placed on people who don't get vaccinated.
There needs to be some sort of incentive stick, perhaps, through the current programs, including No Jab, No Pay, looking at specific things like not being able to go into restaurants, not being able to travel internationally, not being able to catch public transport, or more broadly having what in the olden days would have been a yellow fever vaccination certificate.
So, Rita, which is it, incentives or sticks? They're not the same thing.
They're not, but if you look at the four-part plan, well, the plan for a plan that the Prime Minister announced on Friday, it's got a little bit of incentive and a little bit of stick in there as well. Now, I would say, those comments from 10 months ago, perhaps he has changed his position on that, given that perhaps 10 months ago this virus was treated differently. We didn't know as much as we know now, and we don't know about the fatality rate, hospitalisation rates. They've all changed fairly significantly since then. But this four-part plan, that is something that I have major issues with. It's what I've been demanding for months and months, and finally we've had National Cabinet and the Prime Minister come out and make some sort of an announcement. But really, there is so little detail here, Rowan. No dates, no targets. The only thing that is concrete is the backward step in halving international arrivals, putting up the barriers to Australia even more. So I am really disappointed by the Prime Minister and his lack of leadership at this crucial time.
Well, Rita and James, we have great news here on Outsiders. We did manage to interview some of Scott Morrison's top bureaucrats yesterday to find out exactly what this four-stage plan involved. I put it to them, what is the four-stage plan?
We follow the four-stage strategy.
What's that?
In stage one, we say nothing is going to happen.
Stage two, we say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it.
In stage three, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do.
Stage four, we say maybe there was something we could have done, but it's too late now.
Absolutely genius.